Hello, wherever you are, and welcome. Did you have a good summer? Good, because the new year in Eurovision is here. A new country, a new host city, new songs to look forward to, and stories to tell. New season, new titles, new Eurovision, same wrap-up. The Eurovoix Podcast is back for Season 2. I'm delighted you're with us as Eurovision 2025 kicks off. After Nemo's win in Sweden, the journey to Switzerland starts now. This is the show that shows you every step of the way. My name is James Stevenson, and this is Wrap Up, the monthly Eurovision news show from the Eurovoix Podcast. Yes, monthly until the end of the year. So there'll be a few shows to cover off what's happening in the world of Eurovision before we go weekly next year. And coming up on this show, we dive deep into our new host city, see what's changing and staying the same, and we'll be talking about a whole different kind of Eurovision later on. And we'll be looking back at the madness of Malmö as we're joined by GJ Kooijman and ESC Gabe. But that's all to come, because since I last spoke to you in the breakfast bar of a hotel in Copenhagen in May, we've had nearly 4 months to recover from Eurovision 2024. But while the Eurovoix podcast team and I have been taking a little break, the wheels have kept turning on the song contest that never really sleeps. To catch you up on a whirlwind summer, here's Italy's own Davide Conte.
One thing I will never understand is time, like the concept of time passing, of time flying, or the opposite of time never passing by, of time moving slowly. Everybody has their own different conception of time. It was May when we last spoke. Almost 4 months have passed since the moment when Nemo stopped spinning on a structure and lifted the trophy in Malmö. To some, this time has been like the flash of a lightning or the blink of an eye. To many others, summer has been like a soft current from a refreshing river, or the shadow of a tree that moves as the sun changes in the sky. No matter how fast or slow your time was, we're here again to catch you up on everything you might have missed. Welcome back. First up, let's talk about the unforgettable final night in Malmö, Sweden. Nemo from Switzerland stunned everyone with his unique blend of pop, opera and rap, winning the hearts of Europe and bringing the trophy in Switzerland after 36 years. But Eurovision doesn't stop at the grand final, does it? The summer has been packed with national broadcasters gearing up for next year's contest. We will see plenty of announcements for national selection shows, with some countries opting for new formats and others sticking with their trusted methods. Italy's Festival di Sanremo, for instance, is already causing a buzz with rumors of some big names entering the competition. And Sweden's Melodifestivalen promises to be bigger than ever this year. Some countries have already announced that they are coming back after many years, while others are yet to announce their plans, with the rumors that somebody might withdraw. And of course, as we head into September, we officially mark the start of the Eurovision New Year. As of September 1st, any songs released are eligible for Eurovision 2025. We don't know yet who will follow in Nemo's footsteps, but we do know we are ready for another incredible season of music and unforgettable moments. The page of 2024 has been officially turned. We are now staring at another blank page, ready to be filled with writings and drawings made only by us and by us only.
Grazie a tutti, Davide, for hitting the audience with poetry straight away. Thank you very much. We're back. Of course, that brings us up to date right up until last Friday, when the big moment came for Basel. Yes, after a well-thought bidding process between all the big cities in Switzerland, only one could win, and it was Basel that took the right to host the Eurovision Song Contest for the very first time. It's a new city with big plans and plenty of excitement, so Stephen Heap is here to tell you how Basel won the bid and what they've got planned for their big party.
Thank you, James, and welcome back, everybody. After 2 rounds of bidding, 4 cities, each with a desire to host a Swiss Eurovision Song Contest, it came down to a tight race between 2, Basel and Geneva, and on Friday it was declared that Basel would be the host city of the 69th Eurovision Song Contest. A thorough bid process consisting of 100 criteria had considered infrastructure, venue facilities, and importantly, the ability to handle the many thousands of delegations, crew, fans and journalists from all over the world, amongst other criteria. Basel is Switzerland's third largest city and is widely considered to be the country's capital of culture. With 40 museums located throughout the city, Basel is one of the largest cultural centres in Europe. Executive Supervisor of the Eurovision Song Contest, Martin Oosterdaal, said Basel's strategic location at the crossroads of Europe makes it the ideal setting for an event that celebrates the power of music to connect people across borders. Eurovision 2025 will be staged from St. Jakobshalle, a multi-purpose sports and live music venue with a capacity of 12,400. Situated in the heart of Basel, it's conveniently accessible for both local and international visitors. The arena is approximately a 30-minute walk from Basel's main railway hub of the city, which offers extensive train connections to various parts of Switzerland and even further afield. The biggest live music event in the world returns to its birthplace with the grand final of the Eurovision Song Contest on Saturday, May 17, and two semi-finals on Tuesday, May 13 and Thursday, May 15th. Tickets are to go on sale later in the year, and further details of additional shows and events will be announced in the coming weeks. It is also worth noting that this is the 6th consecutive contest where Eurovision has not been hosted by a capital city, and is indeed the very first time it is to be held in the German-speaking part of Switzerland.
Exciting times for Basel. They will be hosting the 69th Eurovision Song Contest. And, of course, the first Eurovision Song Contest was held in Lugano in Switzerland all the way back in 1956. So you could say it's coming home. It's a city that is almost split between three countries, Basel, with France and Germany just a short few miles away. What do you think fans who want to travel down to Eurovision 2025 can expect going to Basel?
I think you're kind of spoiled for choice, aren't you, really? You've got the beautiful Alpines of Switzerland, and then you've got the choice of heading into France or Germany. And I think if you're thinking of where to accommodate yourself, where you're going to stay in a hotel, you've got plenty of choice.
Yeah, there's a load of options, and probably a day trip to Liechtenstein if you're like me and you want to scratch off countries on your map.
Yes.
There's a lot of countries around that you can get to really quickly. Now, Stephen, I want to give you a bit of praise here, because if you've listened to season 1, you might remember that Stephen predicted Switzerland could win the contest all the way back in March. So well done for that. And I remember us all saying that we couldn't afford a Eurovision in Switzerland, saying that the cost was going to be too high. Have we heard anything coming out of Basel that might suggest they're going to make the contest more affordable? Because I know that's a big concern for a lot of people.
Well, actually, I think it is renowned for being the most expensive place in Europe. It'd be nice if they could come up with some new ideas, kind of like when Liverpool did when they staged the contest a couple of years ago. Maybe there's something they can do there, add additional facilities perhaps, or I'm not suggesting a cruise liner, but
Royal Caribbean might.
Yeah.
Shove it down the Rhine.
Maybe there is some neat ideas that they could think. So maybe look at how Liverpool did it.
Yeah, I think there has been talk about price freezes on hotels. I think that would definitely be welcome, because if you've tried to book accommodation, you'll have seen just how high the prices are already getting. Prices always usually drop about a couple of months before, and there will probably be still plenty of space if you want to get down to Eurovision this year. Thank you very much for that, Stephen. The Eurovision New Year is full of firsts. The first countries to confirm they're participating, the first time we hear about city plans, and there's always the race to be the first country to declare its artist for the year. Last time it was Belgium on the 30th of August announcing Musti, and just this morning Cyprus has won the race to declare their artist first. They've just announced that Theo Evan is going to be representing them at Eurovision 2025. He is a dancer and singer born in Nicosia, so not in Australia like the past couple of artists have been, and you may have seen him on screen before if you're a fan of the HBO show Euphoria, because he has appeared as an extra in that show. No word on the song he'll be performing in Basel just yet, but if reports from CYBC are to be believed, we should hear the song pretty soon. In fact, at some point during this month. So that is something to look forward to. Well, Basel will be hoping its big investment pays off, but you don't have to wait that long to find out what's coming up on today's wrap-up. Montenegro is back, a brand new country at the contest. We'll tell you more about their return in a second. And a little later on, the big story of the summer. Joost, Avrotros and the EBU with the people who've been getting the answers. Eurovision is still 8 months away, which feels like a completely different universe at the moment. But for the countries competing next year, this is when the hard work really begins. All over Europe, broadcasters are getting their ducks in a row and putting the plans in motion to find the song they think will bring the crystal microphone to their country. And if you're someone who thinks they've got the song they're looking for, then you can already submit that smash hit straight to them. Davide's back now with all the info about how Eurovision's competitors are already getting ready for 2025.
Hello again. Yes, sir, that's right. A new Eurovision season means the new national final seasons, and I know we're all excited for that. At the moment, nothing is official yet, since countries have plenty of time to express their interest in Eurovision 2025, but we do have bigger fish to fry. 25 countries have confirmed their participation. Many of them are coming back with the same national final as always, while others have launched new selections or adapted the formats, and many others are sticking to an internal selection. Let's see them together. Let's start, for instance, with one of the oldest national finals around, Festivali Këngës from Albania. This year they have come to their 63rd edition. As usual, it is set to take place in December, and the winner will represent Albania at the next Eurovision Song Contest. The song submission period will open at the end of this month. Another country with a very ancient national final, which is actually not a national final, is Italia, hosting the Festival di Sanremo for the 75th time. This year, the artists competing for the prize will be 24, and they will do that over 5 nights, from February 11th to February 15th. So, no 5 nights at Freddy's, but yes, 5 nights in Italy, which is equally scary, if not more. Moving on to other countries, up north we have Norway, where the submission period for Melodi Grand Prix closed yesterday, and in Finland, where the period to submit entries to the iconic Uuden musiikkikilpailu lasted only a week and closed at the end of August. In Sweden, Melodifestivalen is still accepting songs, as their selection will remain open until September 13th. In the Baltics, Latvia is looking for the next representative through Supernova 2025, which opened the song submission period on August the 20th. The same goes for the neighbors in Lithuania, where artists will have the chance to apply until November the 11th. Other countries that are hosting national selection are Serbia, Spain, Portugal, Luxembourg, Belgium, going back to Eurosong as they did in 2023, San Marino with their castings, and Montenegro coming back after 3 years with a new national selection, Montesong. Other countries are sticking to internal selections. These are Cyprus, who have already chosen their representative and are about to announce it. Austria and Azerbaijan, where the submission period is open until September the 15th. And Switzerland, the host country, which have received more than 500 entries by the end of their submission period at the end of August. We are still waiting for news to come from France, Germany, Malta, and the United Kingdom, but I believe that they are going to announce something very soon in September.
Thank you, Davide. It feels like we're really getting back into the swing of things already then. Some things are changing, but there's some new shows, new rules. What's the most exciting thing to look forward to from the national final season coming up?
I think the most exciting change would be with Melodifestivalen with Sweden, because they have changed, as I said before, they have changed again their format. On each semi-final, the song that will place third will be competing with the other songs that placed third in order to obtain the last 2 spots for the final night, because there are 12 spots in the final night. We will see how Swedish artists will fight to obtain these places, and we'll see what songs they will produce.
That's right. It seems like they've changed that because the issue they had with the format in 2024 was they had the second chance round during the 5th semi-final, and the 2 songs from the 5th semi-final took the 2 spots. So I think they're looking to combat that, let's go with, loophole. Also, Sanremo is going to look a little different this year. Giovanni is gone. Amadeus is gone. John Travolta's legal team is probably gone. How are you feeling about Sanremo next year as an Italian?
I am a bit afraid about Sanremo, actually, because
Really?
because of the future that the festival is going to have. We had Amadeus for 5 years as the official host, and he was good. Italians basically couldn't stand Sanremo any longer, and he brought the festival from that place to a new place, a shining place. Yeah, Amadeus did all this in just 5 years, and we are afraid that Carlo Conti is not going to be at the same level of Amadeus, but the benefit of the doubt exists, and he still has plenty of time to do many more amazing things for the festival. I'm not afraid about the quality of the songs, though. That doesn't scare me.
No, that shouldn't. Sanremo is always where good songs seem to show up. And because of the success that Sanremo's had in the past couple of years, I'm sure that Carlo Conti will get a grace period and he'll hopefully have time to keep the success going. Well, thank you very much for that, Davide. 37 countries competed at Eurovision this year in Malmö, but that doesn't mean there isn't room for a few more. And just a few weeks ago, we found out that our crop of Eurovision contenders will have a face from the past coming back. After spending a couple of years on the sidelines because of high costs, it's great news that Montenegro has announced that they are coming back to the contest, and they've got a new national final too. Stephen, tell us more.
Thank you. After an absence of 3 years, Montenegro will return to the Eurovision Song Contest. The national broadcaster, RTCG, confirmed in a statement that the country would indeed be making its comeback in 2025, as well as the news of a national final to select their act, Montisong 2024. The broadcaster says their return to Eurovision is to develop and improve musical creativity within their country. With song submissions opening until October 1st, it is likely Montisong will be staged later this year, although no official date has been set. Prior to this exciting announcement for Eurofans, RTCG published a document containing the rules for Montisong 2024. The show will follow what is the current format of the Eurovision voting system. 50% of the points will come from an expert jury made up of music and media creators, and 50% will come from the watching public. While songwriters themselves do not need to be the citizens of Montenegro, the performers must be, and every song is required to be in more than half of one of Montenegro's official languages: Montenegrin, Albanian, Bosnian, Croatian, or Serbian. They last participated in the Eurovision Song Contest in 2022 with Vladimir and her song Breathe. Vladimir now works as a creative director at RTCG and is using her experiences to aid with the nation's return to the contest. She says this is a wonderful opportunity for us to showcase our country's rich cultural diversity on the European stage. The goal is to promote new musical talents and reconnect with the wider European audience. Montenegro's return has been welcomed by Eurovision fans across the globe, and is some good news too for event organisers, the EBU, who see another country committed to the contest beyond 2025.
It's cracking news for Eurovision that Montenegro is back and Vladana is back, which I didn't realise. Hopefully her satellite dish will help Montenegro reconnect with Europe just that little bit better. Doing a national final feels like a big step for Montenegro as well. They haven't done that in a few years. Is this the sort of commitment that they need to make to find success at Eurovision?
Yeah, but it seems in this brief time that they've been away, they've hit the reset button and they've really thought about how they're really going to tackle Eurovision. And you can see that in all the plans so far. And I think it's the right thing to do. Look at Dora, look at Serbia. It's absolutely the right direction for them to be going, I think. And it opens up local talent and artists, which is only a good thing.
It's really exciting, and we've seen that Luxembourg in the last 12 months have come out with their national final when they've come back, and that's worked well for them. So hopefully Montenegro will track the same. They have said for the last couple of years, though, that what stopped them coming to Eurovision is the money. Do you think there's more the EBU can do to help other countries come back to the contest?
Of course, you would always ask, can the EBU, are they in a position to lower the fees? And it would be nice to have and incentives. So for new countries coming to the contest, a lower fee, and then as they progress in the second year and the third year, let's take it from there and see where it goes.
And this is the difficult thing, is obviously, while it is a song contest, it is the commercial interest that rule the day, and at the end of the day, they have to make a profit out of this. So at some point, part of the equation doesn't work. Hopefully, they can just make the equation a bit kinder. And let's hope we can see a few more countries following in Montenegro's footsteps and coming back to the contest in the future. Speaking of the future, a new Eurovision is never the same as the last, and people come and go every year. However, few are quite as notable as Stig Karlsen. He has been the head of delegation for Norway for the past 10 years, which means he's basically been in charge of their entries. Over that time, he's brought us Alexander Rybak again, Kaino, Alessandra, and Wolves with Bananas. He's also made headlines for his, shall we say, outspoken views on certain parts of the contest. Now, though, he's leaving Eurovision behind for a new job based around space, and he'll leave a huge space to fill. Wrap-Up's new lead producer, Francisca von Faden, has more.
Mid-August, it was announced by Norwegian broadcaster NRK that their head of delegation, Stig Karlsen, is stepping down from his duties. Karlsen, who was also in charge of Norway's national final, will be taking on a new role handling communication, media and brand management for Norway's first female astronaut. Until the end of September, Karlsen will continue as the director of Melodi Grand Prix, by which time it is expected that the lineup for the national final will have been selected. The country's best result under his tenure was when Alessandra came fifth in the 2023 Grand Final with her song Queen of Kings. Norway has also had 7 consecutive qualifications under his period, and in 2019 they even won the televote with Kaino's Spirit in the Sky. During his time as head of delegation, Stig Karlsen has been vocal about an, according to him, needed change to the Eurovision voting system. To emphasize this notion, he has changed the voting system of Melodi Grand Prix in 2024 to give 60% of the points to the televote, making the public vote weigh more in the final results. After this year's grand final, Karlsen has also addressed the EBU to make, quote, wise and necessary moves, end quote, to repair the contest's reputation. However, Karlsen expressed that him stepping down has nothing to do with the aftermath of the grand final of the Eurovision Song Contest 2024. Although this means that the Norwegian Eurovision team will have to find their new leader as the preparations for Melodi Grand Prix 2025 begin.
And he will be missed, won't he, Stig Karlsen? You could always rely on Stig to make his opinion known about something. Do you think we'll miss all of his hot takes, Fran?
I think we do. I think he was a very vocal and transparent figure. Also in the Eurovision fandom, he was always very helpful and keen to talk to media and journalists, and I, for one, will certainly miss his chat with Eurovision Norway each January when he says that they have a Eurovision winner in the Melodi Grand Prix final lineup.
The yearly tradition that has that never quite came true, did it? But he did his best, and there were some really good results for Norway under Karlsen's period as head of delegation. How important do you think a head of delegation is at Eurovision? We talk about them, but if you've not watched the contest before or really gone into depth, you'll have no idea who these people are.
Well, I think they are quite important. Usually they are not as visible as other members, like the participants itself. But each broadcaster taking part in the Eurovision Song Contest has a team leader, and basically that's the head of delegation. This person is the contact person to the European Broadcasting Union, and it's also the leader of the country's delegation at the event. A delegation typically consists of the actual participants, songwriters, head of press, you name it. So a head of delegation has a very complex job managing these 20, 40 people that travel to the contest.
So there's a lot of importance in the head of delegation, but that role changes and Norway will be finding a new one. And over this series of the Eurovoix podcast, we'll try and go in a bit more depth as to what people behind the scenes of Eurovision do, not just those talented few artists who you see on stage. Well, consider yourself caught up with the big news ahead of Eurovision 2025. But there's still more to dive into. In a couple of minutes, we'll be talking about the fallout from one of the biggest stories of Eurovision this year, Joost Klein, and the public fight between the Dutch and the EBU over his disqualification. You'll find out what I and a few special guests have been getting up to on that in a little while. And later on, we are letting a little culture into wrap up as we introduce you to a completely different kind of Eurovision. For now, though, it's been a long summer without the contest and the podcast to keep the team and I going. So why don't we find out what they've been doing instead of Eurovision over the summer?
It's been a pretty easy year to replace Eurovision because we've had the Euros and we've had the Olympics as well, which I've obsessed over because, you know, move your flag passion from one entity to another.
Luckily, this year we also had the Olympics with flags, countries and competition, which was a very welcome distraction for me while I was recovering from an injury.
There were many Easter eggs for us Eurovision fans, from Slimane performing before the opening ceremony, Celine closing the opening, Baby Lasagna blasting out the Stade de France, and Maneskin and Lazara used in repetitive gymnastic routines.
Frankly, I did not. There have been a few things that have gotten me distracted, like work or doing more traveling.
The best thing I did over the summer was go to my sister's wedding. It was fantastic.
I replaced Eurovision over the summer by travelling abroad to southern India for a month to visit family.
What haven't I done? I've had a really lovely summer. I've been very lucky to have lots of plans. We've been on holiday, I've seen friends and family. I've still summered very well and taken a well-deserved break. And now here we are again, back in September, ready to do it all again.
Welcome back to Wrap Up, the Eurovision news show from the Eurovoix Podcast. It is good to be back. We just heard what the team's been up to this summer, but in some ways, I've never really stopped. After I went out to Malmö, the one thing that stuck out from Eurovision 2024 was that there were still a lot of unanswered questions over what happened at the contest. So, since then, myself and our Dutch friend Simone van Dijk, who went to Malmö with me, have been doing a bit of work to try and get some answers on the story that's dominated the summer, the fallout from the disqualification of Joost Klein. Yes, the Joost situation has turned into a saga this summer, and there's still plenty we don't know, and the EBU and Avrotros don't agree on. Since Malmö, though, both Sam and I have been working on trying to establish how the decision to disqualify Joost happened. And together with the two guests who are now joining us, we've done as much as we can to find out. Their names you may know. First, it's GJ Kooijman, the presenter of the Eurovision Song Festival podcast, and Gabe, ESC Gabe, from his YouTube channel, streams and Vason dance clips on Twitter. How is everybody?
I'm doing good. I mean, it feels weird to be starting a new Eurovision year with an announcement of a host city, and there's still so much trickling down from what has happened the last year. Normally by this time, it's like, oh, we've established everything that we did last time, and people have learned or things have changed, and we're done. But that doesn't feel the same right now. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
I think you're right. The book has not closed, and that is strange. We're used to, by this point, even if there's some small rumblings, you know, the usual kind of thing I'm thinking of here is should we change the balance of the jury versus televote like we had in 2023? It's a small argument. It stays in the little Eurovision bubble and it's over pretty quickly. And then we move on, right? And there's no cloud hanging over. There's nothing really left to say. But there's so much about this year. In many ways, it forms part of the frame that the 2025 contest will take place in.
And there's so much that's unsaid as well, which is kind of what's happened over the summer, is trying to work out what unsaid can be said. So since that day in Malmö where that all went down, how has our experience been of that for the last 3 or so months?
I can speak for the fact that there's such a lack of transparency around a lot that's happening. In the beginning, there was a reason for it, which is why a lot of it was held back from a lot of the different parties, is because there was a police investigation happening, and a lot of the parties did not wish to impact that by going publicly with details. Something not only we've experienced, but also a lot of delegations in terms of what the decision-making process was. What were the decisions taken? How were they taken? When were they taken in that disqualification? Also, because as some people have said to us, we want to make sure that if a similar situation arises again, we know what the steps are. We know what the decision-making process is.
Yeah, there are a lot of closed doors that we don't know of or something.
So what have we learned since about what happened?
Information has come out really in dribs and drabs, but we've established broadly, I think now, especially with the release of the police report, we know just about what happened, what the act from Joost towards the EBU staff member was. Because no party has shown, especially at EBU, has shown a willingness to give an exact account or to retell in precise detail what happened, we're still a little bit in the dark. We're also not being told what changes have been made. We're simply being told that changes have been made, and we don't know if delegations know what those changes are. So there's this kind of culture of, like GJ said, lack of transparency, this culture of avoidance, which means we've formed an outline, but we really can't tell anyone the full story yet. There's still more to be found out.
Something that we published about is that the Avrotros, the Dutch broadcaster in charge of the delegation in Malmö, and the EBU had such 100% opposing stories on not only the incident, not only whether their opinion on whether a disqualification was the correct measurement taken after what happened, but also in terms of what led up to it, whether there was agreements made and whether proof of those agreements was, provided and was there, but also, and that's been something that we've seen a lot.
Yeah, and to summarize this all in the extent of how we're going to view Eurovision 2025, the Avrotros has now said that they think the chance of them competing in Eurovision 2025 is, and I'm quoting, very low.
There is this lack of confidence in the timeline of what happened, and that is, I think, affecting the relationships, definitely with the Avrotros, but potentially other broadcasters as well.
I think that's true, and we do know that other broadcasters, some publicly, some privately, some both, have expressed severe concerns. For example, the Slovenian broadcaster RTV wrote to the EBU, publicly made clear their list of concerns. There has been no indication publicly of any response. So if they responded, they did so privately, and RTV didn't share that.
Stig, from the head of delegation from Norway, who was sadly departing after this year, he was one of the first who spoke out after that report was published. He said, yeah, we've been given signals that really give us some positive signals towards the future, but I don't think it's been very much concrete, and I think that's something that we might see towards the future. We know that the EBU has spoken also publicly through their communication officers about having a code of conduct this year. Maybe also for different things that people were brushing up against backstage, because let's be honest, the Joost situation was not the only thing that we've heard about publicly, to kind of mitigate that on any possible level, or to have a clearer way for the EBU to say, stop, this is against code of conduct.
We've now found out together that there's a disagreement over whether Joost was allowed to be filmed backstage. The EBU says that there's no written request from Avrotros on the matter. Avrotros says that there's evidence that there was and that the EBU hasn't responded to it. Why do we think that's so important?
Because I think it shows, as Gabe was saying earlier, that there is an indication as well that these two parties have not been properly talking towards each other. The reason that Avrotros might also say that the chances are very low might not have to be because they don't have a lot of confidence with the EBU, but due to the fact there's a lot of bureaucracy around this. So it could be a very Dutch way of just saying, we don't think that due to the bureaucracy, this will be solved in 8 weeks, which means we can't come in 8 weeks. Those are the rules.
And maybe also just the feeling of the people at Afrotos being said over the last edition and of the disqualification of Joost, and now saying, well, maybe we should head out for 1 year and just let it rest for 1 year and then compete in 26.
I think if you bow out for 1 year, you'll get a lot of the naysayers, especially as we're heading into a more right-leaning cabinet, which is very, very eager to cut down budgets within the public broadcasting system here in the Netherlands. If you step out for 1 year, there could be a big argument for those politicians to go, great, we've not done it for 1 year, why keep funding this?
Gabe, what's your take on that as someone who is, qualified as not Dutch?
So I actually think when it comes to the public broadcasters, there's sort of a similar situation as to what we have with the BBC and others, which is essentially once you get above a certain population, Eurovision becomes, financially speaking, a radically more financially sound programming decision than what you would replace it with. I personally cannot see the Dutch withdrawing in the long run. Number one, because they're still maintaining the connection, at least for this year, with Junior Eurovision, which they're planning to participate in. And secondly, there is still a big audience. And even after the disqualification, at the point of maximum outrage, there was still a pretty big audience in the Netherlands for this show.
I have a different opinion as someone who can be qualified as Dutch. I would support Afrotos to withdraw for 1 year. Everything the Dutch candidate, the Dutch representative of 2025 will do will be in a bigger picture in Dutch media and all-fan media, and everything the Dutch will do in 2025 will be special, will be a thing. Oh, what did the Dutch do? What did the Dutch think? It's going to be a thing.
As of right now, Afrotos is without a head of delegation. Knowing that normally the selection process for an internal selection had already started by now, the deadline submission would be September 1st, and then they would slowly start in October and September and October, finding, weeding through all the submissions and stuff like that. That process has been very solidified. I am worried that if this process starts later, first finding a head of delegation, even though we have brilliant people who have been in the delegation who are still with Afrotos, but that may concern me in terms of that they would speed up the process and therefore make some shortcuts in those decisions. That I think would be a shame.
And to add to that, you could bring back Montenegro, North Macedonia, and Romania, and you probably wouldn't begin to touch the sides of the financial contribution and also the value of the audience, the value per viewer that you would lose from the Netherlands withdrawing.
Yeah, only problem indeed is practically it's my cat.
Your cat has strong feelings on the average.
Strong feelings about Afrotos. What I wanted to say is that to point out what GJ said, and that's time is very, very short now. As this podcast releases, it's the 2nd of September, which means they have, roughly 5 to 6 weeks to really, really investigate if they can compete with a artist they can put all of their support behind.
Well, wasn't that a great chat? Thanks so much to GJ and Gabe and Simone van Dijk as well for coming on with me and talking all things Joost. For the rest of the show, though, we're taking a slightly different turn because there's a whole other Eurovision we've never explored on this show. So why don't you stay with us for a bit of culture, a bit of classical music, and a little bit of Eurovision Young Musicians. So, for the rest of the show, things will be a little bit different around here. On this show, we love to say that Eurovision isn't just a week in May, but a year-long process. However, there's more than one Eurovision as well. This is a bit like when Marvel jumped the shark and did the whole multiverse thing, but there are multiple Eurovisions we need to be aware of. We've got the main song contest, which we've been talking about. We've got the Junior Eurovision Song Contest, which is in Madrid later this year and will be there. And in August, we had a Eurovision based around classical music. It's called Eurovision Young Musicians, and Neil Farron is here to explain what on earth that means.
Thanks, James. Before we talk about this year's Eurovision Young Musicians, we need to go back in time first, specifically to 1978. In that year, BBC Young Musicians, a contest for young classical musicians in the United Kingdom, was established by Humphrey Burton, Walter Todds and Roy Tipping. After the success of this contest, the idea of a European version of BBC Young Musicians, which became to be known as Eurovision Young Musicians, was first proposed in March 1980 during an EBU expert group for television. 2 years later, the very first edition of Eurovision Young Musicians was held in Manchester. It has been held every 2 years since, with the exception of 2020. Damn you, COVID. Each country is represented by a musician aged between 12 and 21, who all must perform a piece of classical music with the local orchestra of the host broadcaster. Just like at the Eurovision Song Contest, participants may be selected through a national selection or internally. In editions with a high number of participants, a semi-final round has been held to reduce the number of participants in the live final. Once all of the participants perform during the live final, a jury of international experts chooses a winner. So yes, you don't have to worry about block voting or get mad that your neighbour didn't vote for you in the final. In 21 editions of the contest, 12 countries have won at least once. Austria is the most successful country with 6 wins. In terms of instruments, 10 winners have played violin, 5 have played piano, 2 have played cello, and the clarinet, flute, viola and saxophone have all been played by at least one winner.
Thanks, Neil, for that introduction. I think it was Måns Zelmerlöw who said, if you want to win, bring a violin, trust us, bring a violin. And Eurovision Young Musicians definitely fulfills that. It's a totally different flavour, but it has the same ingredients as any Eurovision, including finding a winner. And that's what the young musicians had to find out back in August. They flew way, way north to Bodø in Norway, which is the most northerly Eurovision host city of all time. I wasn't feeling cold or heartless enough to quite send Neil to a flight into the Arctic Circle, but I'm happy to say he was following the whole thing for us at home.
Eurovision Young Musicians 2024 was held on the 17th of August in Stormen Concert Hall in Bodø in Norway. Bodø is one of the European capitals of culture for 2024 and is the northernmost city to ever host a Eurovision event. The contest was presented by Silje Nordnes and Mona Benston. Musicians from 11 countries took part in this year's contest, where they all performed with the Norwegian Radio Orchestra, which was conducted by Edvind Odland. The results were decided by a 4-member jury of international experts, and only the top 3 were revealed. Finishing in 3rd place was Fabian Egger from Germany for his performance of Tango Fantasia for flute and orchestra. In 2nd place was Hugo Svedberg from Sweden with his performance of Cello Concerto No. 1 in D major, first movement. But the winner of Eurovision Young Musicians 2024 was Leonard Baumgartner from Austria with his performance of Violin Concerto No. 5 in A minor, first movement. Leonard gave Austria its 6th win overall and continued the tradition of Austrian violinists winning young musicians. As the winner, Leonard received a prize from the Nordland Music Festival. This prize includes an exclusive festival package featuring a solo performance with a professional orchestra, collaboration with renowned musicians, and a tailor-made educational and experience program in 2025.
Congratulations to Austria and to Leonard Baumgartner then, one of the great musical nations in the world, winning the EYM crown for the 6th time. Neil, how did that jury judge Austria's performance to be the best? Because this isn't Eurovision where it's pop and rock. This is a totally different atmosphere. So what sort of criteria is the jury looking for?
In this contest, we had a 4-member jury, and the jury was tasked with marking each contestant from 1 to 10 based upon specific criteria like the technical difficulty of the piece that they chose, musicality, performance style, and just how well they played. So an average viewer might have been watching the show and thought, how can I possibly pick the winner out of all of that? But trust me, these professionals knew what they were looking for and knew how to select a winner.
So it's kind of the same as Eurovision, but with a bit more class and refinement, I guess.
A bit more elegance.
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 That's what it is. It's highbrow Eurovision. Eurovision Young Musicians isn't the only thing the EBU has tried in recent years to broaden out the brand. There was a Choir of the Year at one point. I think there was a dance one as well.
There was.
Yeah, there was. Thought there was. What do you think is the next Eurovision Cinematic Universe spin-off?
I remember there was talk about like a Eurovision circus show like years ago that never really materialized. So,
Circus show?
If the EBU want to come back to that idea one day, we may see like people doing backflips to get 12 points, as if they don't do that in the song contest anyway. There were 2 Eurovision dance contests. So there was Young Musicians, there was Young Dancers, sorry. That was first held in 1985 and it was last held in 2019. And that was mainly for ballet and contemporary dance. And then there was the Eurovision Dance Contest, which was like Dancing with the Stars or Strictly Come Dancing. And fun fact about that, my old Irish dance teacher represented Ireland at the Eurovision Dance Contest in 2008.
You're kidding. That is such a
kidding.
niche Eurovision fact, that is. Strictly Eurovision.
Strictly Eurovision.
Oh, goodness me. Somewhere Stephen is losing his mind at the concept of Strictly Eurovision.
Let's make it happen.
You want it to happen? Right, EBU, if you're listening, it's Strictly Eurovision. That's the way forward. Thank you so much, Neil, for following Eurovision Young Musicians for us. And that's not the only thing that you were up to either. Of course, on the Eurovoix podcast, we love speaking to the artists who become stars at the contest. So why should it be any different here? Over the last couple of weeks, Neil's caught up with the kids who've taken their talent to the world stage and tried to learn about what makes them tick. So, to end our first wrap-up of the new season, let's hear from those Eurovision Young Musicians.
I am not in Bordeaux, but someone who is the representative of Sweden, Hugo Svedberg. Hey son, Hugo.
Hello.
Your instrument of choice is cello, and what is the thing you love most about playing cello? Or is there anything in particular you love, or is it just the cello in general?
I mean, for me, it's always just, it's so exciting to play an instrument. It's kind of something totally different from really what you expect, and to work towards pieces and kind of find details, and it's just really enjoyable for me. It's such a journey to kind of work towards, and obviously playing in concerts is so exciting, and yeah, it's something I really enjoy as part of my life.
And speaking to me now is the representative of the host nation itself of Norway, Sebastian Egerbakken Svenøy. Hi, Sebastian.
Hi. Nice to be here.
Is there an extra pressure being the host nation's representative, or is it more relaxing that you kind of know what you're going to do?
I haven't really thought of that. I think it's so nice that everyone here is so supportive, and you can speak your own language, of course, and it's just so nice that on the rehearsal today, it was, of course, really easy to just play with the orchestra once again, because I have done it before with the same piece.
Right now I am speaking to Leonard Baumgartner from Austria. Your piece of choice for the competition on Saturday is Violin Concerto No. 5 in A minor, or the first movement by Henri Vieuxtemps. What made you choose this particular piece to play?
He knew what he wrote on this concerto, and I think particularly this fifth concerto is the most successful concerto of him, and the most played also, and he was a violinist, so it is written in a violinistic sense also, and he had also very beautiful feeling for beautiful cantilenas in a violin, on a violin part. So there is both virtuosity and also the option to have many beautiful melodies which go into the ears, and that's why I think Vieuxtemps has done a very beautiful piece with this violin concerto.
Some really heartwarming stuff there from Eurovision Young Musicians, and that is a perfect way on which to end. But Wrap Up is only getting started for Season 2. We'll be back in 4 weeks' time on the 30th of September to see what's been happening in the world of Eurovision this month and make sure you hear it. And after a first season where we brought the contest closer than ever before, we're going to give you the best seat in the house for every step of Eurovision 2025. Until next time, though, it's time to end. Thank you so much for listening to our first wrap-up of a new year, and to the whole podcast team for making these shows happen. We'll see you in a few weeks, but enjoy that last bit of sunshine while you can. We'll see you on the other side. Goodbye.